the bullets and the ballots and the ballots and the bullets. Okay, it's the White House. Look, when paperclip try to brings a message, it be like that. I be in my bed, trying to rest, and there's weird stuff happening. And it's like, enough with this assault. Try to line my toes, can't sense my own toes in my own body. I said, okay, what's up? I know that pattern. And then I look at the news after I recorded. So, shooting at the White House, Jupiter is 22ing. We got the reports since. Okay, reports from basically 12 minutes ago. And here it felt like sexual harassment. Like that's what I felt. And then like I tried to align my toes or something to balance my nervous system, and it was like, okay, what's going on? Okay, shooting at the White House. Let's pull it 10 minutes backwards. Ascendant, midheaven applying to Lilith. Ascendant going over Rahu. Rahu ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter 22 in Cancer. This is 8th house for United States, 12th house for Trump, and Mars is applying to square Pluto. Okay, Saturn 11th, Jupiter 22. Mars applying to square Pluto is probably, kind of like a word for event. Midheaven Lilith surrounding the ascendant of United States. So that is basically United States ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter 22ing, and the ascendant goes over Rahu where I'm at. Let's bring this to okay, so this would be 10 minutes ago. Jupiter would be the 9th house. Midheaven Leo, ascendant 11 in Scorpio. Scorpio is the 12th house for United States. So I saw it. I received a note when the midheaven was when I received a note when the midheaven was around the United States ascendant. The midheaven is to do with my career from my perspective. So this being an astrologer, it's kind of like, hey, that's shooting at the White House. But that's the funny thing when there's an attempt to deliver a message and the classified project budget tries to block messages, and that it basically would send out weird signals. It's kind of like, think about somebody's trying to say something to another, and another person feels sexual harassment instead of the message. That's that's the thing now. And yeah, this could be, and by the way, this could be people trying to use telepathy or whatnot. There are many neural networks, I don't know. And Sun, Gemini, Mercury, Gemini, 8th house, ascendant ruled by Mars. Mars applying to square Pluto. But what triggered that Mars? Let's take a look at the reports in English. Now, it did give me the today shooting at the White House. I was like this. um, 30 minutes ago. Okay, so let's put it 30 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. Let's give it another 10 minutes. We're gonna get the Senate and the midheaven. That would be, sorry, I'm gonna take it to the 30 minutes ago. So Ascendant 7 degrees, still ruled by Scorpio, still ruled by Mars. Mars in the 7th house, Venus in the 9th, Regal Venus, midheaven Leo, Sun in the 8th house, Mercury in the 8th house, Jupiter 22ing. Is it actually that? Let's see. News. Saturday evening, 6 p.m. EST. Okay, 6 p.m. That would be, yeah, that would be around the time. Ascendant in the 12th house, Mars in, for United States, Mars in the 6th house, Venus in the 8th, Moon in the 10th. Moon is like, by this time Moon is crossed over Ketu, so I don't know why then. Other than Jupiter 22 in, and for me it would make more sense because I saw it with the midheaven around the ascendant of United States and around Lilith. Saturn 11th, but nothing triggered Saturn. And Mars has been in this degree the whole day, so why Moon 8 degrees would bring us this? I don't immediately see that. The ascendant, maybe Moon applies to square the ascendant of United States. Maybe Moon on the midheaven. Let's take a look at the Sibley chart. By the way, I'm aware of the I just know, things happen. Because Trump was missing the wedding, the second wedding of his son, and that was a good decision. That was a good decision. It's not the best election to have. As we saw, I think now it's fair to say that now that the shooting happened, because that felt weird, and I'm like, well, it just happened. If I'm going to try to correct things, it will just be worse. And now this happens. At least astrologically, I was right that it's not a good election for a wedding or renewing of the vows. But the funny thing, I ended that note on, perhaps, because I thought it was misinformation, I ended that note on perhaps they would have to have like another wedding. And it's the second one. Okay, Sibley chart, midheaven 25 Virgo. On the besieging of cities, and no, it's 2 meters from Al-Qaeda, but ascendant 8 degrees Sagittarius with this one. Oh, there is, okay, this is a lot of fortune. This one, it's not the vertex. Let's see, how do they call this sign? Because that one is important because it's on, I think this is related to the president curses with the 22. I see it through the 22. Other people see it as fortune, Vesta, That's not Vesta. That would be 22. I'm looking for the 22 of Cancer. Position of the houses, planetary aspects. Okay. This 22 thingy is what Jupiter is standing on right now, probably activated now. What is this sign? Is it lot of? Do they mean lot of spirit? What do they mean here? Because it's not showing. Let's say astro.com. But that probably is a lot because it seems to activate something, or either that, or it's their weight of noting vertex. Where do they put vertex? Because vertex can act a little bit like a lot, because sometimes nothing happens, sometimes something's happened. And no, they don't give me the vertex. That's probably how they mark vertex, because I don't think they would mark a lot of spirit in this site. Probably is how they mark vertex. And but still, Jupiter has been 22 in for a while. What's activating this? Oh, look at the moon. Uranus is still too far to be activated by the Sun. Mercury has already gone through that Uranus. Is that Jupiter 22ing? But let's see what is maybe by the retrograde motion of Pluto. Was Pluto going retrograde before the shooting? It can simply be that Pluto went retrograde before the shooting. And there was also Uranus ingress was the shooting. Uranus ingress Gemini direct. Since when was Pluto retrograde? Because it can simply be the Pluto retrograde on this point. Another thing it can be is Uranus could be around when there was the ear shooting. Okay, remember the ear shooting, the Van Gogh? No, but Van Gogh was a while ago. My God. But it looks like the outer planets are doing something other than this Jupiter 22. A lot of fortune here around Aquarius. Again, Saturn 11 has been on this degree for a while. Sun released the conjunction, well, like the moon transiting Virgo, but it doesn't activate anything much there. Soul hour, Sun leave in conjunction with Sedna. But again, it's been there the whole day. I don't know why this hour, why. The tension, of course, the tension is, and here is what I have to say about this. When I see an event like that, my conclusion is that this is not the big event. Okay? And this is what this is what I want to warn when I see this, because yes, Jupiter is 22 and it's been there. If it would be like the moon squaring Jupiter, the moon Even conjoining Ketu that would be opposing Rahu, and but the shooting happened several hours afterwards. So my takeaway from this is that it's not the peak event. We have Mars applying to square Pluto. Um, and Mercury will be 18 degrees. And I want to say even more, I'm not sure that the peak event is regarding the White House or Trump. Um, but it tells me that this is simply not the peak event right now. It's an event, and this is, you know what I think about? I think about the context, and what I was recording at the context, it has to do with the war. Probably their attempt to, I know their attempt to get NATO involved in opening the Strait of Hormuz, and um, again, and there are, and then the question of when money changes hands, it's like the most you will remember is the pedophilia, and this is where it tells me it's not the peak event, and the peak event has to do with that in regards to the Strait of Hormuz. I'm gonna say it, when the Detro Michel Nihul dossiers were open, it was basically about United States versus litigation for war crimes of the Kurdistani people, and those in the Hague that were more with the separatists were, yeah. Um, so with the Strait of Hormuz, there's something similar. The positions of the Hague, I don't know the position of the Hague, but if there is a difficulty or a challenge to get NAVO to open the Strait of Hormuz, um, I, it probably has something to do with that. um, D-Day. Oh, D-Day. Okay, D-Day was a lady that is kind of Epstein survivor, and she talked about the occult and how it would be difficult for her to even sense her own body. And now I think that was the thing, was D-Day. NATO interfering in Hormuz is D-Day, is bombing the entire Middle East. And this was the do you want to bomb the Middle East? And and that is, then I saw Chernobyl with the denuclearification. Um, so these attacks on the White House, first of all, they're picking bad elections. There's nothing that's actually, again, it's not a good election for a wedding, but it's also nothing was really picking on a thread here. And it tells me that it's not a peak event. Those were probably warnings more than an actual attempt to assassin. Um, and this is where the peak event to get NATO to join the war in Hormuz. Let's just put it that way. Esper Saint Michel Nihul. Have you watched it, Annika? Esper Saint Michel Nihul. Okay? Y'all can drop a bomb on Brussels. They'd stay put. I'm talking about United States. Oh my God. Shout out to Maloney for deporting the Pakistani person that wanted to marry a girl at 15. That the girl was 15. Because the Epstein dossiers are already out. End them all. It was not a call to action. Anyway, yeah, people worried why their pensions don't yield. It is. They should have. They tagged when they tagged the woman as the crazy one, then the pension, it is, it compounds. What can I say? Anyway, so the peak event, again, let's take not 10 minutes. It's not in 10 minutes. Gonna go to concurrent time, and I'm gonna take it to the peak event from Washington. Let's give it another. I wanna see it on the minute. Jupiter almost out of the 22, but not yet. Mercury 18 degrees. Sol 4 degrees Gemini, Uranus, Sedna, Mars squares Pluto. On that day, Moon will go through Libra. Venus 8 degrees Cancer, applying to square Saturn. And the Sun will apply to trine Pluto. So there's a company that manufactures gold. That's just in the background. And the square here is happening in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius. The square here, Mars in Taurus is war. Mars in Taurus is boots on ground. And Pluto could be asking why not bombs on ground? Because the type of bombs would be kind of big and kind of nuclear. And let's see if I get to have my sushi first. The combination Saturn 11, Mercury 18 degrees, Jupiter 22ing, and Mars square Pluto. Again, this sentence is something that is kind of a peak event, and it does look bigger than the White House. Does it look like something dropping on the White House? Not necessarily. With this 5th house Aries, 7th house and 8th house, 5th, 7th and 8th, and the square is from Mars in the 6th house, which is open enemies, but also people who are, let's say, at service of United States. and squaring towards the third with the ruler in the fifth. Now it can be a suicide nuclear bomber because Saturn is structure of, and 11 degree is suicide and bombing, but it doesn't make an aspect with Pluto right now. It's separating from the sextile to Pluto. Its ruler Mars does. So it can be a chain of events, which is what we are seeing right now. Mercury 18 degrees can be something toxic, some neurotoxins or toxins, separating from opposition to Lilith over the issue of not over the issue of not subjugating the feminine. It could be the result of the subjugation of the feminine creates the result that is toxic explosion, also to do with Sedna here. They can be mineral mines going boom. They can be more like gas and oil things going boom. It's in the seventh house of United States, and this is why it can have to do with Styro Hormuz. 10th house for NATO. This is Mars will be from the 9th house of NATO to the 5th. 9 to the 5th with Saturn in the 8th house. Um, well, I definitely predicted that Mars square Pluto could be, it's an opening square. Of course, it could be something militant. Is it a good election to start something? No. Um, why am I saying that? First of all, definitely there may need to be a response, but would I pick an election to start something big? No. You'd be surprised. I actually want Mars in good aspect with Jupiter to be strategic and having the orientation and beliefs aligning with the actions, and I want Mars aspected well. Now, of course, every election has circumstances. So, is it an election for response? It probably is something that's going to necessitate some sort of a response, because the squares with Pluto are very intense. That's an understatement. The Sun is trining but the other trine comes from Neptune, and Neptune is radiation. Um, Mercury opposing Lilith. Again, Lilith here. Lilith ruled by Jupiter 22. Lilith is the woman that would not be subjugated, and we can't have sovereignty with subjugating the feminine. In this war, I've stated this over and over and over. And it's very, I don't know who are the people in the Hague, but it's not gonna be simple to get anybody joining that, because very obviously striking the Strait of Hormuz from the allied nations is an open warfare with everyone. um, is a world war, very simply put. And a world war entails later litigations for crimes against humanity, definitely with the type of thing that would take to take down um, the embargoes around the Star of Hormuz, or to open the Star of Hormuz. And this is, I addressed it with Honor in the Feminine for several days now. It compounds to kind of the military aspects, and it's not about opening the Star of Hormuz. It's not just a gate that you it, it is about um, starting something that, if they do it effectively, the Middle East would look like the entire Middle East would look like Chernobyl, which means that ships won't be able to go through the Star. If they try to do anything in any other method, they need to honor the feminine. Also, in that way, they need to honor the feminine, but in that way, it's kind of like appeasing the honoring the feminine by basically, not getting into situations that would create complications that get the people that were affiliated in subjugating the feminine for the rest of their life in not so good implications. Um, Now, wait a second. But if they try to get NATO to interfere, they need to be supported in The Hague, and I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think that's why NATO is delaying. So, and that for United States means that they're not supported in The Hague, which is yeah. Thanked Michelle. um, yeah. Will we see the equivalent of the Epstein files in Europe? Falken, this might. Um, and what do I want? Where is this thing going? Trump in this position, any president of United States, any person who would be now the head of United States, would be in between knowing that and this usually is by orchestration, because it's the point of extortion cults is to expose the people in the networks. That's how they rejuvenate. So, and this is where I definitely see. I don't. Let's say if the Haag was cool with going full blown World War, then it would have had a quite a while ago. Even when Uranus was around Beta Persei, let's just put it that way. Um, there's difference between, let's say, the Europe versus the frontier around Ukraine, and and the Star of Hormuz. That's two different junctures. Um, and again, the closest to the Middle East is Turkey. Turkey is making signs, Turkey is signaling that it does BRICS, and that's another pillar that probably is going to make things difficult. Um, who is sitting in The Hague, or who will be sitting in The Hague, and this is where US knows that it's not going to have, it's going to have to do the equivalent of Epstein files in Europe to take this one and so will Israel, but Israel knows that even regardless of Iran. As per NATO, do I see the alliance opening the Star of Hormuz? This, how should I say that? This will end in nukes falling. And this would need, and here's the thing about nukes, it's the type of weapon that it's very, like, how should I say that? Even if it was the most, even if at its time it was the least suffering, it would still be, it's still a bombastic move. Do I see bombs falling Hiroshima and Nagasaki style? No, 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 no. That's not. Pluto's not between Cancer and Leo. It's not a nation. It's not the onset of Pluto in Gemini, which was two cities. It's maybe the onset of Pluto in Sag. And the onset of Pluto in Sag is way more. Think about it. In 2030, we're going to have the Rahu in Sagittarius. People talk about one world religion. So now think a bomb. Because to drop an A bomb on the basically an A bomb here would make anyway the Star of Hormuz 70 years to 100 years vacant. By the way, about the missing scientist, case solved. She's a 10, but she's a nuclear reactor. Broadcasting from the place that is at the margins of the North. And I want my sushi is what I'm saying. Not radioactive. It probably is already. Anyway, red fruits. Yeah. Anyway, Was sagt NATO? Not Mako. NATO. NATO news. Thank you. Rubio tries to reassure NATO allies over U.S. troop deployment. Talking about sending mixed signals. You see the issue when they grow on programs that teach them to create a trauma bond. This move is supposed to actually ensure compliance. But what about secure attachment? Oh my God. NATO foreign ministers meeting in Sweden addresses how to make the alliance 22 May stronger. Okay. 14 hours ago. Europe seeks to defuse Trump criticism ahead of NATO summit in Ankara. Diffuser. What essential oils? No, what essential oil would we say about this one? Jasmine. US deepens European uncertainty with deployment of 5,000 troops to Poland. NATO allies welcome Trump reversal on Poland troops deployment. Troop level confusion. Yeah, well, Saturn Neptune hasn't said its last word with the Saturn Neptune conjoining in 1 degree Aries. That's my Neptune square. And I think we're gonna get the European equivalent for the Epstein files. Why is Trump deploying? Okay. Mind the drone. War begins inside secret NATO bunker in London Tube. Mind the drone gap. And yeah. Nothing nothing new. Yes, to understanding military strategies and international relations. May 26th is gonna be a peak event. Well, what is this peak event? Let's take a look as per NATO chart. Let's take a look at NATO chart in comparison with this. NATO, what is this NATO? Venus, Saturn and Venus. Midheaven 19 degrees. Mercury is going to be conjoining midheaven of NATO from the 18th degree, where Lilith is about to oppose it. Rahu. Well, Mercury is going to be a little bit of an issue. And nothing else sparks, nothing else. Probably going to be a toxic debate. Probably going to be a toxic debate. And I know that they want to change the structure of the International Court of Justice. Word has been around Singapore. I don't know how has it been in the aftermath of the Epstein files. The list. When is Saturn meeting Neptune again? Saturn, Neptune conjunction in Aries. Let's see, 2026. Is it happening already this year? This was Favor 20. No, I'm looking for the next one. Not this one, the next one. Probably 2027. Yeah, but we're gonna have another one. Okay, began in March 2024 and then go through May 2027. May 2027. Or with the exact conjunction, the close orb lasting until January 2027. This is Jan 2027. What would I, before the Epstein files, January. It's gonna be winter. I don't know if it's mellow season yet. It's uh, and there is that notion. Europe. Europe. When is Sirius rising? Sirius rising tells us about Europe, July 20 to July 2020, 2026. So I'm gonna wait for Krasi because she lives next to the place where people come to see Sirius rising. And that tells us about Europe. Let me see something. Inuit. I don't know. Um, anyway, the vibe around, if I take a look at the Epstein files, there was a lot of discussion. There was a spiritual warfare that made people aware of the occult of Epstein. Right now, there is a Genesis talk, which is very connected to the breeding farms and the agenda to double the population by 2023 when Chiron is in Taurus, which is and this is telling me that the dossiers will be very much revolving around the birthing issues. And the kind of what's behind religion. We're going to see, okay, and I also want to keep for people to keep in mind that everybody around Europe, in the world in general, but everybody around Europe is trying to figure out what is the best position where even the converts, both Jews and Calvinists and Huguenots, were chased by the Inquisition that was chased by the Ottomans. So the only way out is to not subjugate the feminine in scripture, in spirit, in matter, in economy, and so on and so forth. And that negates even sex trafficking, even as a venue for diplomacy. And so this is a complete shift. And I predict that the European dossiers, how important is God in your life? And okay, okay, Cupid. um, very important, but yeah, veneration. So, um, what which god? um, Now, this is kind of like the bigger picture because, and for people that are wondering, there is the concern because people are afraid of inquisitors or people becoming inquisitors. Abolishing rape is basically, it's not just abolishing rape, but also everything that is founded upon that. It's kind of like, well, and that's um, yeah, it's kind of like me. I was trying to align my toes, and it was like D-Day, D-Day. Um, will they have a D-Day? I don't know because again, Mars square Pluto, they will have square Pluto meanings that there is an event and people need to respond. That's it's and right now we already have the event. The Star of Hormuz is blocked, and the response of NATO is being eloquently or Europeanly delaying, both because of bureaucracy, but also, you know, and it tells exactly what it needs to say to United States, but then United States never asked before it began to attack Iran. Um, and and then there was the question of really trying to get NATO to participate in, but they won't do it without the Haag. And either option, um, this would prompt something. Um, and it's not the question of who is the president of United States by now. Like the situation is already a situation. Um, okay, structurally.